Welcome, world, to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. I am Reverend Sandy Rogers, and as the creator of this historic event, it is my pleasure to welcome you. We come together to bring you this historic event. We have practitioners, holistic practitioners. We have medical doctors, we have spiritual individuals. This event is so lovingly dedicated to my mother, Mrs. Barbara Brown. And my mother taught me like 40 plus years ago about the importance and the meaning behind herbs. And she would always say, we don't know what they putting in those pills, so you better not, get hooked on prescription drugs. And so we listened to Mom, but not all of us paid attention. My sister, bless her heart, was diagnosed recently thereafter with asthma, and she was prescribed prednisone, which is a very powerful steroid. And my sister actually got hooked on steroids like someone out on the street kind of hooked, like on heroin or crack or something like that. And so my mom and my sister are both on the other side, living in the other dimension, but they're upholding me, and this is dedicated to their memory. So we don't want to come and make you change your mind about what you're doing. We just want to provide information to you, something different, so that you have options to choose from, so that you're not stuck. Because the environment that we now live in, the fast foods, the toxins in the air that we breathe and in the water that we drink, and the processed foods, and all of that is causing havoc on this precious body temple. So God created our bodies to heal themselves, but they can only heal themselves when they're fed and they're nourished and they're stress-free. And so the 60 or so or more experts that we have are bringing you this worldwide wellness movement in an attempt to share their testimonies and their information with you. So we have from age 14 on up. I don't even know what the oldest age is. I think 88 or something. So you see, that's a wide range of knowledge that we're bringing you. And so we hope that you come and that you get all the knowledge that you need to affect a positive change on your life, and share this with others. It's free, it's online, and so we're just so thankful that you decided to be a part of our listening community, the viewing community, and we certainly appreciate you for giving us your time of day and your energy and your efforts to being with us and to being a part of this historic event. We have pulled together people of color for you, by you, right? So we want to make sure that you understand that we too, melanated people with color, can enjoy, practice, and participate in some of these modalities that others have been doing for centuries, and that is pretty new to our community. So we talk about Qigong, we talk about meditation, yoga, spiritual work from a different perspective than religion. So we talk about the spirituality aspect. We talk about abuse in the families. We talk about all kinds of subjects because we know that in our communities there are layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that we never talk about that's causing a negative effect on our bodies and its healing process. So we address it, whatever it is, and we hope that you will benefit from the many experts that we have, and that you walk away with lots of knowledge and lots of new information, and that you become fully empowered to share information with others. So thank you for being with us. We love you and we bless you, and we look forward to doing this again. But thanks for being here with the first one. We appreciate you.
Life, love, and wellness. Life, love, and wellness.
Today we have the awesome pleasure of having an interview with DeBorah Rowser. She is a registered nurse and she is so passionate about how she assists people in the universe. So I'm going to have DeBorah to introduce herself to us.
Well, I'm just me. I'm an authentic person. Always have been a little different, even to the point of people are like, well, DeBorah, you're really a rebel rouser. And, folks have told me that for a long time, from family-wise to even working in corporate America in the medical profession. And I've been on this journey in terms of health since 1976, when I graduated from Hampton in nursing school. And the story about that was that my mom's, when I went off to college, and I wanted to be a psychology major, and she said, "Oh no." And if anybody has met my mother, that I so lovingly call HB, she said, "You're not going to mess up my money in psychology. You better go and do something that you're going to be able to get you a job." So, of course, at that same day, I changed it to nursing. And, it's interesting because I just realized about 2 or 3 years ago that nursing has not been my passion. It has been something that I've done because I took heed from Mommy Dearest. And it's been good though for me, because with nursing as a background, it allows me to do a lot of other things in the health profession. Now, the other piece to that story is that when I graduated from Hampton, I said to my folks that came in 1976, I really wanted to go to medical school. And I knew at that time I wanted to be a surgeon. And I wanted to be a surgeon on the GI system. Now, that is so ironic, because full speed ahead now, as we look at my story in terms of my training, I ended up getting involved and getting introduced to colon health, which is really one of my passions, because everything begins in the core, in the colon. And when you study even iridology, you can see the stomach and that first ring, and then around that is the rest of the digestive system. So as we live our lives, we're even affected emotionally in our core. So the story of my being a surgeon and really working with the digestive system, I said to my folks that that's what I wanted to be. And my grandmother, who's passed on, said, "Well, why didn't you let us know?" And I said, "Well, I didn't think you all would be able to afford it." But I knew that would have taken me to a different path. Even being introduced to becoming, going to the Air Force. That was something that I was interested in and had been courted by the Air Force, and knew that I would go in as an officer. So I've taken a different path. My passion is being well and transforming people. The first email that I had was, "You too can transform." That was my first email. And I've worked with assisting others to transform as I transform myself. And whatever we're good at can be also our weakness. And we can learn to become even better at it. We can learn to expose ourselves as a weakness of it. And even the gentleman that I've studied under, Bernard Jensen, is his name, and he's well known across the globe in reference to the iridology. And one of the things that he did was to plot the reflex points on the colon, which is very powerful, because what that says now is that there can be blockages within the colon that can affect other parts of the body, just like on the eyes, just like on the spine, just like in the hands, and just like in the feet. And it's, it's so magnificent how the creative intelligence and the shining ones have gotten our bodies together and said, okay, here's the framework and the network, and this is what this means, and this is what this means. It's our learning what it means and then working the principles of that. So the passion of transforming, and I even did a radio show for a while called Transformations, Health Transformations, on WRFG, and did that for a while. I even have some of the tapes from where I did the shows and had people that would come and talk about health. But it really got me cued into how to communicate health to others. And the flip side of that is how to communicate health to myself. And each client that I've had over the years and years, since 1984, 85, if you will, of teaching people about colon health, I've learned so much. One really powerful piece was a gentleman that came to me for some colon health hygiene series. And while he was on the table, I said to him, so have you been snorting cocaine? And his eyes popped. And he said, yes, that's one of the pieces, my addictions. I don't even know if he's still alive now. But helping people with their colon opens me up to get a better understanding of what's happening with them. It's almost like a tarot reading, if you will, or a numbers reading, if you will, because of that connection, even as far back as my graduating from college and knowing at that time that I had an affinity for the GI system. So that has been a really powerful experience for me. And even being able to look at the energy that's coming from the colon and say, okay, you've got a blockage here, a blockage there, or feeling it and being able to tell. Very, very powerful. And it's not magic, it's just a gift that has been bestowed upon me from the shining ones. And understanding and overstanding that has taught me a whole lot. I think about, and the more I learn about the colon, I find out that there's more to learn. Because the colon in and of itself has a brain. Some people call the colon the third brain. And there's a brain on the brain of the colon. That's the cecum, and I've talked about that somewhat, because the cecum is the blind spot that connects the small and the large intestines and is separated by the ileocecal valve. And off of that cecum is the appendix. And we know that when the appendix becomes problematic, then that can become a life-threatening situation. Now, when we back up anatomically, we know that the digestive system is 31 feet. And of that 31 feet, 5 feet is the colon. And the colon is basically responsible for just letting go of stuff that you don't need. Now that's very powerful, because if you move it to the whole idea, well, you're eating 3 meals a day and you may go twice a week. Now you're holding on to the residue of the food that you've eaten. Now it's at 98.6 degrees, and we can imagine what it's like, and that's one of the reasons why when people go to the restroom, nobody wants to go in behind them. And that's one of the reasons why deodorizers are very, very important, and they sell, I'm sure, millions of dollars, let alone looking at the billions of dollars that are sold for people who suffer from constipation. And even when you look at that root word, constipation, it comes from a Latin word that means to stick together. It's actually a verb, constipare, and it means to stick together. So on one spectrum, there's a person that may go twice a week, and we can imagine what that's about. Then there may be a person that's going 2 or 3 times a day, but the character of the removal of the fecal material is sticking together, and then it sinks. So that's also a degree of constipation. And I think it's very important to understand that. So if you're having bowel movements that are actually sinking, they're dark in color, that lets you know you have a degree of constipation. And let me just speak to vegetarians for a minute, because I think vegetarians really think they she and he foo-foo. You understand? Because, well, I only eat plant-based foods. But some of the things that are eaten cause a lot of constipation. For example, gluten. Wheat can be very irritating for the bowels as well. So we have to begin to learn about the digestive system, the colon in particular, and that means what it is we put inside. Now, if we look at food and it's just sitting there and it's not movable, if it is not movable, that's going to be an indication that you're going to eventually have some problems, because that food is not movable. So the majority of your foods should be very movable. What that means is, if you just touch it with the fork, then it can move. Like your vegetables, I like to call them vegetables, or like your salads. Those are going to be things that will be much, much, much better for your colon health and your colon care. So we want to look at that piece as an important piece to bring into our lifestyles. I think about things like lettuce. And they're all different kinds of lettuces. I mean, very delectable lettuces. But they're very good because what they help to do is to scrub the colon, scrub the digestive system. So whatever is sitting there moves along. Whereas those foods that don't move, for example, your heavy meat substances, your steaks, your pork, not only because it may be an issue with people that have certain religious beliefs, but because it doesn't move very well through the digestive system. So it has a tendency to sit there. And what I would encourage the listeners to do is to get some raw carrots, grate them up, and eat your big bowl of grated raw carrots that have not been cooked. Put a little olive oil on them, and then put a little cayenne pepper. And then you watch to see when those carrots show up on the other end. That'll give you a good indication in terms of what your transit time is. And the transit time tells you how long it takes for something to come out that you've taken in. And if your transit time is long, if it's taking more than 24 hours for something to come out, then you can bet your sweet bippy that you're suffering from constipation, and over a length of time, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Particularly if you're not following some of the 6 essentials of colon health care that I speak about. The carrots are seen as a roughage food substance. And if you are not putting water into the system, a second element, then you can bet your sweet bippy that you will have some problems eventually. And because of those reflex points, certain areas will begin to be affected, whether it's the liver, your blood sugar, your thinking, your feet, your heart, your lungs. And I want to give a really powerful example as well. I remember working over at a hospital, local hospital here in Atlanta, and I worked on a cardiology floor. It was a telemetry floor. And one of the standing orders was to make sure that people had something medication-wise that would keep them from getting constipated. And typically, we would give them something if, they said, well, I'm a little constipated. Well, I remember this one lady, and it just proved a point from me, and then I observed it over my lifespan of nursing. And she was having some really funky kinds of arrhythmias that were coming from her heart from a telemetry reading. And she was complaining of her tummy not feeling well. Well, ended up giving her something for constipation a couple of days in a row, and those rhythms converted. Now, granted, the medication she was on would probably help, like digoxin, etc. But midway point of the of the descending and ascending colon is a reflex point that corresponds to the heart. So she, in essence, was able to go to the restroom and empty more than what she had been emptying. And when I questioned her, and this has been years and years ago, she said, well, I haven't been able to go to the bathroom. So that let me know certain things also. So even keeping yourself from getting constipated can even help with maybe heart conditions. That's just a question now. Maybe if you're suffering from AFib, atrial fibrillation, where the heart is just quivering and it's not beating the way that it really should beat. So we have to take these kinds of things into consideration. And, I'm not going to doctors, but most of them don't really have a conversation with you about your bowel habits. The generic question is, are you constipated? Well, you gotta qualify and quantify that. Because that's just like, you telling a person, well, do you drink water? And they saying, yeah, I drink water. Well, you haven't asked them how much. It may be they drink a cup a day. So, this is a relative thing, y'all. We got to really get that. And not even looking at halitosis and how people's breath can smell. That's from the digestive system, where putrefaction of the foods that you've eaten and you're constipated is backing up. So now your breath smells. And just a little sidekick, you can get you some cinnamon sticks and chew on them, which can be very helpful. Some fresh peppermint can be helpful. But cleaning out that colon is most helpful. So keep that in mind. But let's talk a little bit more about the 6 essentials. We mentioned the roughage, like the carrots. Other things that include roughage will be your salads. Spinach is very, very, very healing. And it's important to, when you do spinach, the best way to eat it is raw. Now, and I use this as an analogy. You can drive from here to New York in a Volkswagen van or a Rolls Royce or on a plane. Okay? The deal is, how do you want to go? You want to provide the best for your body. We will pay loads and loads of money for a car. We will pay $50 to get our SUV clean. But will we buy the best water to hydrate ourselves. Now, I mean, it's in vogue now to buy water and everybody walks around with water. I remember back in the 80s, people just didn't drink water, but now it's in vogue. And that's unfortunate because people have a tendency to go with what's in style instead of what's going to be the best for you. So that sort of leads me, and I'm sort of backing into this, one of the other essentials is hydration. And the body can tell the difference between hydrating with Kool-Aid, okay, and sweet tea, or hydrating with water, and the purest of waters. I remember growing up, and we would go to South Carolina, a little place called Estill, South Carolina, and you know, there was acreage, and they grew the cotton. But the thing that was really powerful for me was priming the pump water. And you know, there was always a glass sitting on the side with some water, so you would pour the water in the pump, and then you would pump it, pop, pop, and then this cold, crystal clear water would come out. And as a child, I remember just turning my head and just letting that water just run into my mouth and all down, and it was just so pure. But it came from deep down within the earth. Whereas now, some water that's being sold to us is coming from underneath the parking lot. And if you're drinking water out of the sink, that's water supposedly that has been purified from where we wash clothes and flush commodes and done all those kinds of things. Now, granted, it's relative. Don't get me wrong, y'all. Don't twist my words. But again, you want to drive from here to New York, you want to be in the best condition. So as you live your life, you want to live your life the best. And so what? You pay $3 for a gallon of water. So when you drink it, you can say, oh, this is so good. Just like when you sit up in that Benz or that Beamer and you driving and it's got a new smell to it, and you be like, yeah, you know, I'm it. Well, be it with your health. So hydration is important. So let's ask the question, how much hydration should I drink? Because it goes back to the person telling you, well, I had water, and you ask them and they say, well, I had a glass this morning or last night. How much should you drink? Some researchers say you should drink, if you're 200 pounds, you should drink 100 ounces of water. Okay, if that rides your boat, then do that. Some people say you should drink 1 cup every 2 hours. If that's good for you, then do that. Some people say you should drink enough so each time you urinate, your urine is clear. But I can bet you a sweet bippy, if you drink each time you urinate, you'll be drinking quite a bit of water. You can go without almost anything except for water. You can look at a person and tell if they're dehydrated. I teach a phlebotomy class, and we teach the students how to identify dehydration so you can make a determination whether or not you're going to be able to access that vein and get blood out of it. Because if it's not plump and it's not bouncing like a trampoline, then you can't. Same with the skin turgor. If you pull it up and then it just stays up, then you know that you're not getting enough water. If your lips are dry, you're not getting enough water. If you confused it, you just go drink some water. You know, I went through a little healing crisis myself. I didn't feel well. And my folks were reminding me, drink water. Drink more water. And I was drinking, but not enough. So even when you looking at you're going to be detoxing, you need to increase your water. What does that mean? If I'm used to drinking 5 glasses of water a day, then I need to increase it at least to 8 or 10. Because if I'm taking the herbs or the foods to help detoxify me, then I want to go ahead and clean things out. That's just like a cesspool, or if you got a river with stagnant water. I mean, everything dies in it. But when the rain comes and brings the water, then things just flow and move right along. So the same thing happens in our bodies with that water piece. And if we want to stay young looking, and if we want to lose weight, the more water we drink, the better it is. Particularly if you're drinking that water prior to eating. Okay, an hour prior to eating would be best, but that's the best thing to do. So now, we've looked at what? The roughage with the carrots. We've looked at hydration, and we can keep talking about water and the kinds of water and alkaline water. It don't matter. Just start drinking the water and, doubling up what you're drinking. Now, of course, if you have congestive heart failure, then that's something that you got to be real careful with. If you are end-stage renal disease, you can't load up because those systems are now broken down, which really comes from, especially end-stage renal disease, from problems like diabetes or not drinking water from the beginning anyway. And now you don't want to drink water because I don't like water. Now you end-stage renal disease and you want water and you can have only a little bit. How ironic is that? It's the craziest thing in the world. So again, the roughage, the hydration. Let's talk about some bulk. Because when we talk about bulk is what? It comes up, swells up. Things that are bulky can be your salads as well. They can be things like Metamucil, which is heavy duty on the market, and all it is psyllium seed husk powder. But the thing about psyllium seed husk powder is that it swells. Metamucil swells. So when you put it in that water, it's going to swell up. And it can constipate you if you don't drink enough water. So here we go. Back to the water again. So bulk up with your vegetables. Bulk up with a little psyllium seed husk powder. You can even bulk up with a little chia if you choose you want to do that, which is very, very powerful. You can bulk up with a little flax seeds if you want to. And flax is just really important. And chia is important as well. So bulking agents through the foods, roughage through the foods. And I want to say a little something else about one of my favorite foods, which is actually a fruit. And that's okra. Okra, my God, I know it's from another planet. I just know it's from another planet. Because it has the seeds, it has the lubrication, and it's got the bulking energy. If I end up not emptying like I want, all I got to do is cut up me some okra, put a little olive oil, some cayenne pepper on there, and I'm telling you the truth, I'm good to go. Watch out, bathroom. You understand? So okra, most people don't like it. They like the okra and tomatoes. That's fine because both of them are fruits. If that's what you want to do that. And for the slime, just saute a little bit and put you maybe a teaspoon of vinegar in that okra, and then it won't be as slimy. You understand? Or try it raw. You don't know how it may taste. And nothing from nothing needs nothing. So if you don't want to try nothing, then you get nothing. And it's so interesting. What we don't know that we don't know that we don't know is what generally keeps us all stuck, and we keep doing the same thing. So it flows us into a very addictive pattern. So, we could talk about food addiction, but we ain't talking about that right now. But the okra will help to clear and cleanse, and it's got even the lubricating and the bulking and the roughage piece. So, again, the carrots, the hydration, the bulking. We talk about the okra, a few sentences here. But let's talk about lubrication. Okra heads it. I mean, that slime that we call slime. We don't like okra because it's slimy, but it helps to lubricate the colon, and the colon loves that lubrication, because now what happens? Things just slide out, and it's easy. So instead of you sitting there and you straining for 30 minutes, you sit down, bam, bam, and you're good to go. And it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. When we talk about lubricating, you know, the oils that I really applaud are things like sesame seed oil. Very wonderful, wonderful oil. It's better to keep it in the fridge though, especially once you've opened it up. And it's a wonderful lubricant for the skin. So you can saute a little oil, saute your vegetables in a little sesame seed oil, of course olive oil, grapeseed oil. Now things like your canola oil, we want to stay away from that. You know, that's not going to take you to New York in a Rolls Royce. Okay? You'd have to walk on some pebbles. You understand? So olive oil is very, very good for you. The grapeseed oil, I love. The sesame seed oil, I love. And just, you know, experiment with the different oils. You know, I've even tried taking some of the bean sprouts, the ones that sprout just a little bit with the beans themselves, and get a spicy sesame seed oil that has chili peppers, and it's got a little kick on it. And taking a tablespoon and put it on a big container of oil, in a big container, and put the little oil on it and let them marinate with a little sea salt. Oh my God. It's like caviar. I mean, it's excellent, excellent. And then it's going to sweep the colon, sweep the digestive system. Very important for us to begin to use our foods as medicines. Very powerful, because every pharmaceutical that comes up, you can bet that the pharmacists, the pharmaceutical companies, studied what's out in nature to come up with something that is inorganic, that is not going to be broken down in the body, that suppresses symptoms. So learning to go to your herbs, your foods, your fruits, your vegetables is of utmost importance. So that gives you an example of lubricating the colon. Will make a difference. Our next two items are more mental and discipline. So we're talking about exercise. When you go out and you exercise, then you're going to be able to release better. You can release much, much better when you're exercising. When you go out and walk, or you want to do some crunches, or you want to just deep breathe. This will help your core to get massaged, then it feels like it's being loved. Will make a difference. The last item is the mental work. Forgiveness and visualizing the colon being healthy. You know, we forget about that, the colon being healthy. We don't think that we need to do that kind of work. When you're constipated, then just, think about releasing, because you're actually releasing emotional stuff as well from the foods that you really ate, particularly if you're overweight and you have OCD and all other kinds of things. It's releasing and forgiveness that will make a difference with how your colon and your digestive system function. And as I wrap up in closing, the one thing that I would want to share with you, begin to do some journaling, particularly with my females and those of us who have had challenges with obesity, begin to journal how you feeling, and stop for a minute when you standing in front of a refrigerator, or you eating a whole pizza, or you've gotten a Big Mac with French fries, and the French fries themselves that are a Big Mac French fries, and it's 500 calories. What are you looking for? Because you're not going to find it in the food. So you got to learn to stop a minute and give some thought to what's really going on with you, and journaling your feelings. So that'll bring it up and out of you instead of it being stuck in the core. You know, I at one time was 280 pounds. Oh yeah. And at that time I was dealing with a lot of emotional, mental kinds of things. And then one day I caught myself standing in front of the refrigerator just gorging myself. Oh my God. And I got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, until I was able to, at the end of that day, look at myself and say, okay, what are you trying to feed? And what are you not really looking at with yourself, within yourself? So that's something that I would encourage you all to do, because it's not only the women who are obese. You know, we've got brothers that are obese. And it leads to a whole lot of other problems that can be eradicated. The research out now is even telling those people who are not diabetics to begin to eat like they're diabetics. So you have your plate and you've got your vegetable, you got your salad, you got your protein and a carb. And everything should be about the size of your palm. And if you sat down and you stop talking and stop watching television and chew each bite, try to chew it 50 times instead of gulping it down, because you haven't even gotten your chance for your brain to catch up with what you're eating. Try that. My uncle is 80 years old. This dude will go out and run 3 miles. He even takes a spin class. But one of the things that I learned from observing my uncle, he never goes back for seconds. Never, ever, 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 ever. He does his serving. He's been doing that as long as I can remember. Serving sizes. Even when he goes out to eat, he doesn't believe in overeating. So that's another words of wisdom for us to begin to look at. And instead of food controlling you, you get in harmony with how the food works and understand that eating is a science. And you want to eat to be healthy, not to suppress your feelings. And I wish you the best with whatever you do in terms of your health. And it's marvelous to be able to talk about a passion that I have had for 30 some years. When I began doing colon health, my son was actually crawling on the floor. I think he may have been 18 months. He was 33 this year. So I applaud him as well. And for those of you who are working on your health, just keep working. You ain't gonna never stop. You're gonna always want to take it a little bit higher and increase your vibration. Give thanks.
Thank you so much, Nurse DeBorah Rowser. You have explained in so much useful information the workings and what goes on within our bodies, and a lot of times we don't have the discussion, so thank you for making it so plain for us. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you for the honor.